Hello, everybody. Nice to see you all. See you all here. Nice to meet you on this lovely sunny afternoon in June. And it's good to see, like already, Eleanor from sunny Inverclyde, Fiona from Kilmarnock Social History Museum. Hi to Inverclyde Heritage Network, and honorary secretary of the Friends of the Far North Line, a campaign group with around two. Hi Neil, I'm not sure what that is. Do you want to give a little advert for your campaign group? I'm not sure what the Far North Line is. No, okay.
Hi there, folks. Yes, the Friends of the Far North Line, which runs from Inverness all the way up to Wick and Thurso. This is a long-established rail campaign group which takes a big interest in the Highland Main Line, lines to the south of Inverness as well, and is campaigning for sustainable improvements to rail services.
There you go. That's what I didn't know. I didn't know what the North Line was, whether it was like a Roman thing or whatever. But now I know that it's.
Okay, thank you.
Now I know exactly what it is. So that's great. Thank you for that.
Okay.
I suppose the point of I'm sorry. So I suppose the point of talking about video and making videos, I mean, and films and the like. I mean, it's a huge topic, isn't it? Let's face it. So it's the sort of thing that you can spend your lifetime learning about, and still only have kind of like scratched the surface of it. But so there has to be some kind of focus to what we're doing. So I think that the sort of idea is to try and talk around the sort of things that would be useful in terms of trying to make a video which advertises one of the digital doors or several of the digital doors venues. So I suppose that's what we're kind of like talking about, although not in a hugely focused way, but that's a sort of idea. And in order to do that, one of the things we'll look at is examples, just briefly actually. But if you have some good examples or even some bad examples to share, then it would be great to stick those in the chat, and maybe as we go along we could have a look at some of them maybe. So if you feel like putting an example from YouTube or Facebook or somewhere, a video that you've seen that you think is great, then please do put it in there. We can have a look at it. But we'll have a look at some examples and think a bit about how Heritage can make use of video, and then we'll look a little bit at some of the tech stuff in terms of video compression and perception, and that will actually help us, because sometimes it can be a bit of a black, why is it not working, or what's happening with the video. So a bit of the background on that will help us diagnose, particularly when we're doing sort of live stuff and where there's difficulties and troubles. Okay, and then we'll look a little bit at recording and creating video. Fairly straightforward steps. So look at a couple of ways in which we can do that, or can gather together and can get the raw materials that we can use to construct a video out of, and then we'll have a look at the editing, how we can, once we've got those raw materials, whether they be video clips, images, bits of sound, how we can like pull those together and edit them to create a video that we can share. And we'll look then at how we can share it, how we can get people to see our videos, which after all is the point. There's no point having a video if no one can see it. Well, maybe there is some point, you know, personal satisfaction, but yeah, sharing and doing it. So I think, and then we'll look at a little bit also at some other other resources. So I think that, you know, we're all thinking about, well, maybe we could use videos to some good effect in propagating engagement with heritage. And I think that there's I think it is Jen said to me, well, you know, in what circumstances should you make a video? In what circumstances is a video appropriate? And I think a lot of circumstances, because it has like one, it's very accessible. You know, if you stick a video onto social media, you get more people seeing your social media channel. If you stick a video up to YouTube, you can get a lot of people visiting it. It's easy to tell people about it as well. You know, if you have an email circular, you can just put a link to the video in the email circular, and people can click on it and click through to it and to see the video. So getting a video online is opens up possibilities in terms of engaging with audiences. Now, I don't know how many people, you know, say we all made a video after this session and uploaded it to our Vimeo channels and advertised it. But I don't know how many people will see it. You know, maybe 10, maybe 100. Maybe it'll go viral though, because that's one of the things about videos and stuff. People could start sharing it and resharing it and resharing it, and you know, next thing you know, there's millions of people have seen the video. I'm not saying that that's going to happen to any of us, but it is certainly a possibility when you upload a video that lots of people, it will strike a charm, and lots of people will see it. So I think that, you know, all we can do really is try and do the right things for people to be able to appreciate that, and to share a video and to engage a lot of people with it. Another reason why video is a great thing is, you know, unlike some means of interacting with heritage, but there's that word interacting, where maybe somebody chooses, you know, what they want to click on, what they want to see, the order that they're going to do things in, all of that sort of stuff, which can be a great thing. That can be a really positive thing. I'm not saying that it's a negative thing, but with a video, you get to decide what people see and the order that they see it and the order that they see it in. So you get to decide what's the beginning, you get to decide what's the middle, you get to decide what's the end. So if you think carefully about what your message is, then you can get that message across to people. I mean, of course, the battle is you can dictate the order that people are going to see it stuff in, but you can't dictate that they are going to carry on watching, or that they're going to start watching, or that they're going to carry on watching. So those are challenges for us. So, but I think that's really it's accessible, it's easy to share, and we can tell a story and define what that story is. So that's great. But when we're going to go about doing that, we're going to go about making a video, we can decide what the goals are and the key and what the key takeaways are. So maybe the first thing to do is to decide what your target audience is, who you're going to be talking to, who you're going to address. Decide what goals are, what, you know, once someone's seen your video, what is it do you want them to take away from it, and then plan. Actually, I think PowerPoint is a good way of planning. There's lots of kind of complicated software for planning, but we can say, well, okay, you know, in PowerPoint, you can say each slide represents a scene, and just put down what you want to have in that scene and plan the video out, decide how long it is going to be, and then cut things for that. So I mean, that I think is a good thing to do, and it's good to have some support for doing that. And then we collect, capture, shoot, and record. So we collect together what resources we might want to use. So that would be images or existing videos. It would be capturing, so we can, actually, we're recording this, right? So we're creating a video here. So capturing can be really as simple as having a Zoom account, logging into the Zoom account, sharing your screen to a Zoom meeting, and having pressed the record button as we have now. And so at the end, you will then get some video out of it. So capturing can be a really simple, I mean, that can be finessed if we're worried about the quality that we're getting, but it can be a really simple, straightforward thing. So to collect, capture, shoot using a camera and using lights, and recording audio and stuff like that. So that's good. So, and then the next thing is select, arrange, and process. So essentially what we want to do is to be able to bring together all the resources that we've got, select them, arrange them, and process them, getting them all ready for editing. And then we will, once we've edited them and put it all together, then what we need to do is render it out. So essentially make the video that we're going to look at, but we can render it out at different levels of quality. And once we've got the render or the renders, then we can share and view. So I think that is the sort of overall workflow and the overall issues that arise when we're trying to make videos. And there's numerous examples that we can look at. So this is one example here, Vimeo.com. So this is Bannockburn House. So I'll just maybe play that, and if I can play it. Oh, that didn't work. I'm sorry.
This is the pitfalls of trying to show video live while you're Zooming, isn't it? A cautionary tale.
It's one of, my computer stopped working. It's not behaving sanely, and I'm not quite sure why. I've just lost a window. That's what it is. So there it is. The window is up there. So I could just, I'm nearly there, just bear with me, please, I've been at university too long lecturing about computers and stuff like that and forgotten how they actually work. Come on.
But after your session today, I will learn how to edit this part out of the video.
Yeah, you could do that.
Can I say maybe another way? You can copy the link and put it on, I know it's not that straight, and put it on. Okay, you are there.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
I know. I could. Well, I was trying to do that
as well. Yeah.
Without tremendous amount of success.
And put it on PowerPoint. Then you show what is slideshow. It's easier to.
Yeah, I mean, Ian, if you could put that that link into the chat, that would be helpful. Thank you. I just need to make sure that I'm showing the sound, but optimizing for video clips. So, and then I just share that, and there we go. And after all that,
in a corner where two motorways intersect near Stirling stands Bannockburn House, a 17th century mansion with a colourful past. It sits in a location that's been hugely significant for 2,000 years.
This house sits next to the Roman road built in the 1st century AD. That's the Roman road used by every single invasion force, from the Romans, through the Vikings, through the Angles, through Wallace, through Bruce, Edward I, Edward II, Cromwell, all the way through to Bonnie Prince Charlie, then being chased by Cumberland. Everybody passed within the immediate area of this.
The house was finished in 1675 by Sir Hugh Patterson. There is a Victorian extension, but the majority of this building has stood unchanged for almost 350 years.
Quite a long time.
It's a 17th century roof. It's full of hand-cut timbers. There are oak dowels, there are pine planks. Nothing's machine made, and it's just there, and you are literally going back to the 1670s.
One feature that stands out is the ornate work on the plaster ceiling, produced by the same designers who worked on Holyrood Palace. But overpainting in the 1960s and smoke damage from a fire in 1972 demands painstaking restoration.
It should be gold and it should be glistening.
The building's most famous visitor was Bonnie Prince Charlie, who chose the comfort of Bannockburn House twice during his Jacobite rebellion. One night here was nearly his last.
Both times there is probably...
So I'm not going to go on further, but I think that's a nice example of a video that is made for the Digital Doors Open event. So that was an example of that. And you know, I like the way it starts off, because it starts off with this graphic, which is quite nice. And after the graphic, I think there's a bit of coming down from on high, which I think that might even just be using Google Maps and zooming in on Google Maps. Then there's a bit of drone stuff, and then there's a close-up on an individual talking, and then there's some shots of the scenery and so on like that. So you see, although the video itself is quite long, it's about 6 minutes. I mean, often people aim for 2.5 or 3 minutes. It's cutting, you know, every 20 seconds or so. It's looking to engage you in a different way with a different type of shot. So I think that's quite cool and worth looking at. This is a second thing. So this is actually a video, and again, Ian, if you could put that into the chat, that would be great. So this is a video of Glen Shee Archaeology Project with Perth and Kinross Heritage Trust, and this is showing actually a digital reconstruction that I was involved with, which is quite cool. And this is shorter. It's just an example of a video being used for heritage. So hopefully you can see this. If you can't, somebody will tell us. This is stuff done with Perth and Kinross Heritage Trust, who do lots of digital door stuff. And it is just a short video of an interactive reconstruction. So this is an example of you making a video out of essentially a game type environment, and letting you see a house and in a landscape back from the Pictish Iron Age times for Glen Shee. So that's quite a nice example. And here we've got some characters that are in it as well, which is great. This is shorter. It's 1.5 minutes. But there's no audio on this, so it's worth thinking about what could we actually do with the audio. I mean, I'm talking over it, but it would be nice to have. I think it would be nice to have maybe some music and some of the sounds from the soundscape, and some narrative, just saying, hey, this is what this video is all about. So if you see the Courier today, there's stuff about Perth in 1440 that just kind of popped up there. This is an example of another video, Perth 1440. Some music in the background, but I'm not going to linger on that. So another thing that we can use videos for, and this is an example, make short videos of objects and artifacts that are of interest, and just put a little bit of narrative over that and build up a kind of channel. And then this is an example of TikTok. And I couldn't figure out actually with TikTok how to get the URL for sharing. So, but if you go to English.heritage, if you search TikTok and English.heritage, then you should get to this page. You might even have to create something to account. But look at the numbers here. This is quite interesting, isn't it? Because
I think you have to change over to your PowerPoint. We're just seeing the Vimeo, the Perth Vimeo.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm.
Thanks.
We've seen your videos, so don't worry.
Yeah, I did. Okay. You can't see the PowerPoint.
Nope.
I thought I was sharing the screen rather than the window, but there you go. Yeah, so TikTok there. And essentially, this is, you just make a 30-second video, right? But the 3.3 million likes. I mean, I know it's English heritage, and we're not really, we're into Scottish heritage. But I did look at Historic Environment Scotland's TikTok channel, and they essentially haven't done it, so I can't show it. But yeah, 305,000 followers. And these videos are getting 15,000, 18,000, close to 1 million hits on that one. So it does seem to be something where it's possible to reach audiences with, anyway. And then of course Facebook is a great channel for sending out videos. And this is an example of a video that we made with the Berwickshire Marine Reserve, but that kind of went out live, so that's another way of making videos. So that's just some examples of videos. I don't know, has anybody put stuff into the chat that you would like us to show?
Yeah, Alan, we've just had a question from Kate asking about the TikTok one. Was it the specific TikTok video or any TikTok example, Kate, that you were looking for? Was it the English heritage one specifically?
Yeah, sure. Just bear with me while I try to remember how to use a computer. I don't know why I've gone incognito. Right.
To lend an air of mystery. Log in. Boom, boom. Please happen. When you log into things, you always forget, what's my login for this?
spend 3 days trying to log into the thing. Okay, so here we go. English heritage, TikTok video. So you can see that they've been shot. Well, should we have a look at the one that's, you can see.
Who said Frankland Castle was a long way from home? Oh, hello! Is there anyone there? Hello! My husband's forgotten his spare shoes. How's he going to march to London with Mary without his spare shoes? That poor child, Lady Jane Grey. She thinks she's going to be the Queen. But the people of England, they want Mary. Hello! Let me in! Oh, bloody Mary.
Okay, well, we'll see
Who
one.
said Frankland Castle?
So these, I think, they're all from English heritage, so they're all done in a particular.
So it turns out that Stonehenge is actually just a really early form of Lego. Hear me out. So whereas most stone circles were left in their natural kind of rough state and then raised, Stonehenge is a bit more sophisticated. The Stonehenge lintels were actually slotted together using tongue and groove joints. And looking at this diagram, you can kind of see why I think it looks like Lego. This begs the question as to why Stonehenge was built with such precision, especially compared to other stone circles. And perhaps it was due to its significance that they really wanted it to last the test of time. And I think we can all say they did a pretty good job. So it turns out that Stonehenge is actually just a really early form of Lego. Hear me out. So whereas most stone
we've had that already.
circles...
Sorry. Okay. Colin, you had something you wanted to look at. Here we go. Push your pride. How long is this?
Just 30 seconds.
Okay, great. So from the TikTok one, you see that they had the vertical aspect, and there were a couple of examples. One was describing something about Stonehenge, and the other was kind of going into character, which I think it was probably part of a sequence of them. Okay. Yeah, we don't want to go back and see more of that, but you can see that you can then create a channel, and from the channel you can get a bunch of people looking at stuff, which is good. So do we have any other examples we want to look at? Yeah, thanks, Colin. That was great to get that there. It was nice to look at a couple of the examples from TikTok. The Bannockburn House, I think that's the sort of thing that goes down quite well with the digital open doors audiences, and so that's some coverage of videos. I'm sure that there's a lot more that we can look at, but what I wanted to do was just to have a little bit of a look at some of the tech about how video works and what relevance that might have for us. So from the fundamentals, as I said before, it's kind of linear time. So we go from, we have a beginning, a middle, and end, and we need to think about those things. Essentially, it's a sequence of images and sound, and the simplest video systems are exactly that. They are a sequence of images with a recording underneath, and then the encoding is it can be, those images and sounds can be encoded in different ways, and one of the things that's important, one of the things that has to happen with video is that it needs to be compressed. There needs to be some work done to efficiently encode the information. Otherwise, it's just going to be too big. Okay, and there's different ways in which we can do that, but usually this results in video being variable bitrate. So there's no point in having video that is too high a resolution, because there's limits in terms of our perception. So visual acuity, the extent to which we can distinguish between elements in it that make up a picture is limited. So in other words, if you have a picture which is a series of dots, then those dots will, at a certain distance away from you, or a certain concentration of those dots, they will merge into a continual tone. Okay, so that means that with the pixels that you have on your screen, I mean, my screen is 4K, so that means it's 4,000 in one direction and 2,000 in another. The standard one is like 1920 by 1080, and that, you know, that means that at this distance from the screen, I can't see the dots, so that's fine. That's fine for me. But there would, you know, you can buy screens that are 8,000 by 4,000. It costs a lot of money, but there's no point getting one that's 16,000 or 32,000 or 64 or 128, because I just won't be able to see the difference between those resolutions. And in general, I would say when for this sort of viewing with videos, 720p, there's often not much point in going above a resolution of 720p, and 720p is 13,000 by 7,000 or thereabouts. Ian, do you want to correct me on that? Is it 13,000 by 720? Yeah, I think it's 13,333 by 720. Okay, so and that's what Facebook will, you can stream to Facebook. There's no point streaming something at a higher resolution than that. So there's acuity, which has a limit on the point of going up to high resolutions. And then there's persistence of vision. So we have persistence of vision to do with chemical stuff that goes on in the brain. And what this means is that, so it's where the term the flicks comes from. What it means is that, you know, if you see a light that is flashing on and off, if it flashes on and off more than 25 times per second, it appears to be a continuous light. Okay, and it becomes dimmer if it's off for a longer proportion of time, and brighter if it becomes, if it's on for a certain proportion of time. So again, this means that there's little point in having video that is 50 frames per second or 100 frames per second or 200 frames per second. It doesn't make any difference to us above a 25 frames per second video, unless we want to do slow motion or something like that. So persistence of vision, again, that limits the point of increasing the frequency with which we take images. However, that being said, if we do like a second of video, you know, that is 1920 by 1080 is a big number. It's 1,000 by 1,000, so it's like 2 megabytes. Shall I get my calendar out? Not my calendar, what do you call it? I've not got these numbers in my head. It's terrible. I think it's just old age. I'm forgetting. So 1920 times 1080, which is HD resolution. Okay, so that's 2 million. Okay, so that's 2 million dots, 2 megapixels for a camera. But remember that when we're doing an image, then it's we need to multiply by times 8. Okay, the reason why we need to multiply by times 8 is because that's how many bits it takes to encode a dot. Okay, so we've got 2 million dots, but 8 bits, so that's 16 megabits. Okay, we're starting to get to the limits of our broadband connection already. 16 megabits, and there's 3 dots: RGB, red, green, and blue. That gives us a color spectrum. So we multiply it by 3, so that's 49 megabits. Now, but remember, that's for one image. So if we're doing 24 images, then it's 1.1 gigabits per second, okay, to stream uncompressed audio, right? So that would take up the entire bandwidth that the University of St Andrews has to connect to the internet with, and it would be many times the bandwidth that I can use. So video in uncompressed form, and that's just HD. Right? If you're thinking about 4K, then 4K is going to be that times 4. So you talk about 5 gigabits per second for one stream of 4K video. So that means that we need compression in order to make this technology usable, in order to be able to use video. Because and there's lots of different forms of compression. So I talked last week about compression with images, maybe with JPEG compression. So that's spatial compression, and the other type of compression is temporal compression. And this works by saying, well, you know what, one picture and the next picture, not much difference between them. So rather than sending all the information for one picture and then all the information for another picture, and then all the information for another picture, I'll send one picture and then I'll say, and the next picture has changed in these ways. And then the next picture has changed in these ways, and so on. And by doing that, we can greatly reduce, so that we can reduce these sort of 20 gigabits per second. We can reduce that down to maybe 10 megabits per second. We get a huge impact upon the level of compression, and we need to do that on the bandwidth that's required, and we need to do that in order for things to be usable. But there's always an issue with compression, which is that there's a danger is that we lose the fidelity, or that we lose the resolution. And so we need to think about, just have some understanding of the sort of systems that we're going to use to use video, and what that they can work with. Okay, so we've got a computer. You know, we need to think about like delay, loss. We need to think about all that sort of. How much space does it take up on the computer, and how quickly does it load, and how tractable is it within those systems, right? And I think the sort of the rule of thumb that we can use is that when we're working with video, we should try to keep it in its native state, as uncompressed or as unchanged as possible. When we're publishing, rendering out, we should compress it down into sizes and resolutions that are going to be tractable, are going to be usable for the environment that the video is going to be used in. So when we're rendering out, for example, for something that is going to be played across the internet, we maybe take it down from 4K or from HD into some other form, okay, and into a lower level. So we just make things smaller. And when we're doing that, we need to think about things on an end-to-end basis. And what I mean by that is we want things to be balanced. You know, so if we're streaming video, for example, what's the bandwidth that the network can support? What's the capability of the device that's at the end? What is the software that we're using capable of? So, for example, Facebook will take things that are 720p, i.e. 13,000 across by 7,000 down. I know these might just be numbers, so that's like a quarter of high definition HD. So there's no point sending video to a Facebook at a higher resolution than that. It will just slow everything down. Okay, so they're the sort of things to kind of like think about with to it. So that's kind of some of the sort of overview of. We looked at some examples, and we've looked at some of the sort of tech issues, and we're going to go on and we're going to look at recording, editing, and sharing primarily. But I think at this point, Jen, it would be great to have a bit of a break and a bit of a change, bit of a rest from listening to me bumbling around videos and PowerPoints and some breakout time.
Yes, so we thought this would be our first breakout session of the day. So what I'm going to do is just automatically allocate you into small groups. And it just gives us some space to maybe have some more in-depth conversation. So we can do this for, let's see, maybe about 10 minutes. So that will just take us to 2 o'clock. So the discussion point, as Alan said, we looked at some examples. You've put lots of nice links. You've shared examples as well in the chat. So you can even have a look at those, but just discuss amongst yourselves where you think video has been used well when it comes to presenting a project or a site, and sort of why video was the choice. Was video the right way to do it? And maybe even some of your aspirations. Is there something that you want to be doing with video? A specific project that you have in mind? Or is there a project that you've done where you can maybe share your own experience with other people in the group? And as per usual with these sorts of things, if somebody from the group would be happy to share a highlight from that discussion, if anybody has anything they want to share to the wider group once we all come back, that would be lovely. So I'm going to create those right now and open them. So everybody should be able to join now, and we'll reconvene in 10 minutes. I will close the rooms and automatically bring you back.
Hi.
Okay, I think that's almost everybody back. So I suggest that we open the floor for some wider discussion if there's anything that you want to share from your group. And then after that, maybe it is time for a quick tea break. So is there anything anybody wants to share from their smaller group discussion? I should say you could do it either in the chat, which I'm happy to read out if you want to type it out, or if you're happy to speak to the group, you're very welcome to do that.
I was in room 1. And I actually shared in the discussion the link to the Antonine Wall, Rediscovering the Antonine Wall project YouTube channel. So if you want to see what we did, the older videos are actually pre-lockdown, when we started to do a cooking show with our little mascot. So with one of the volunteers. So it's basically me with filming with a tripod and trying to mash things together. And then during lockdown, oh yeah, here it is. We went on to do more little postcards, so themed postcards. The 4 more recent videos you'll see on here are professional videos from a production company that were produced for a conference. So those will have drone footage and voiceovers and are very, very fancy. But all the others, it's me editing and fighting my way through creating videos and using 3 different apps just to put things together. Some will be in foreign language, and on one you even see me doing fitness. But I really tried to use quite a lot of everything we have that can be used. So yeah, that's one example.
Thank you for that. I'm very excited to
gods,
look at all these.
seeking help and protection for every aspect of life. A common way of worship was to erect an altar stone dedicated to a god and then bring offerings, like we see here. On the bridge nest stone, we also see a ceremony in a temple. Many altars were erected along the Antonine Wall by soldiers and civilians. One centurion, Marcus Cuccius Firmus, erected several that were found at Ochendavi fort. Traditionally, on
So this is really showing, we have an app, an Antonine Wall app. So I screen filmed my app when navigating through. And the very first time when you see the soldier coming up, that's actually the augmented reality part of it. So behind was actually my computer screen with the target so that you can start seeing the little person going around. And then adding pictures. I don't remember in that one what else we have, but adding pictures and things, and then doing the voiceover, just using it on my phone and then adding that on it. So it's very, very basic, but even with basic things, if you take the time, you can do actually quite interesting stuff. Yeah, that would be cooking show. Yeah.
Hello and welcome back to Marcus's Kitchen. Today we're doing something a bit different and we're going to try Caledonian food.
Today we're going to be making an Iron Age recipe which is closest to the food that was probably cooked along the Antonine Wall. So we're making wild boar stew and Marcus is coming to try your local food. So this is the ingredients for the wild boar stew, although it isn't a wild boar, it's pork.
So yeah, you don't need to put the entire recipe. That's actually, you can actually eat that one. It's okay.
That's excellent. And did you find that, was lockdown the catalyst for this? Or did you say you started videos beforehand, but was it something that really forced you to get creative?
It forced us. So the 3 first, the Marcus's Kitchen, we did in end of 2019. So that was part of our volunteering project. And then suddenly I spent the first lockdown back in France. So we didn't have access to anything. We couldn't go onto the wall. So we decided to, over 15 weeks, to have a theme every week to help also with homeschooling. So we had building the wall, living on the wall, faith, eating, leisure, all the themes and going up to the wall today. And my colleague at Historic Scotland write the script or give me the big lines, and then on Mondays we would just focus on educational material. Then on Wednesday we would have an object from Sketchfab that we could share, and then on the Friday we would have one video summing up the theme in 2 or 3 minutes, and then using everything we could use. So all the little postcards are mixed of pictures, what I could find on the app, what we could have access to, and then me just talking. One is more training, so you see me running around in my garden doing push-ups and explaining that, and my dad doing very great camera work. And then another one, I was able to travel to central France to where pottery is made, pottery that we found on the Antonine Wall, so I created a little film about that. But it's been interesting, it has pushed it. And then in autumn we did more snippets with Canva, so it's much smaller, it's 30 seconds, but with Canva you can actually do animated videos that are quite nice too, with pictures.
Yeah, and I think one of the things brought up it's something we actually talked about with the audio session was if you're committing to that that content calendar and actually having it planned out, so that if that became part of your offering, people knew what to expect on any certain day, that you actually had a strategy for how you were going about it rather than just a one-off video.
No, yeah, we had those 15 videos were really, I mean, we had that. It's hugely time consuming, so especially when you're fiddling around it. But it's interesting.
Excellent. Thank you. We also had in the comments, Kate was saying that some of the discussion that they talked about was the changing nature of video. So the different ways that we are maybe consuming video and creating it. So from TikTok, or even using Photoshop for video. And Severine, you just said, using Canva as well, so that we've got all of these different formats to use.
Yeah, you have the one on your computer on Windows. I use right now, I also have Pick, Play, Post. If you have that's quite good, and Rush on your phone.
Yeah, and is it Joanna saying using Photoshop as well, and that there are actually lots of tutorial videos that you can use to teach yourself and walk through those. So thank you for that. Again, anything that you're putting in the comments, if you're linking to things, I will take those links and recommendations and put them in the resource document. So you're all actually co-authoring the resource document and sharing your ideas. Does anybody else want to weigh in on anything? Okay, if there's nothing else at this moment, I suggest we take our break, a proper little tea break, or perhaps iced tea. I don't know, iced coffee, something nice and cool for today.
De fabrication de la sigillée. La sigillée est une forme de poterie décorée et se distingue par sa couleur et ses décorations en relief. De nombreux
Sorry, I don't know where that audio is coming from. Anyway, so shall we just take another 10 minutes? 10 minutes, just go stretch, jump up and down, get a drink.
Okay, so we kind of got to the stage where, oh, can you all hear me? And
yes, we can hear you, but I'm not seeing your screen yet if you haven't shared it.
okay. go. Um, so just wanted now to talk about the process really of going about creating a video, and there's lots of ways that we can proceed with this, and I've titled this bit here recording, but I suppose that it's really about, there needs to be a process whereby we collect together the media that we're going to put into a video. I mean, very seldom is it that a video that we watch is just one, originates as just one long long shot. So we're probably going to collect together different pieces of media and to then put them into, connect them together, put them into an order, and put them into a video. And so the materials that we can use to make a video are pretty wide. So we can take sound recordings, whether those be ones that we make or ones that we have access to at a heritage center or online. We could take photographs. So we take a sequence of photographs and turn them into a video. We can take clips from existing videos, and we can shoot our own video ourselves. So I think when designing or deciding what the topic of a video is, it's worth then sitting back and thinking about what resources exist, what resources can be collected, and what resources can we create, and to put those together into the video. When we're shooting, sort of lights, camera, action, then there are different ways of going about doing this. So perhaps I don't know about the easiest, but perhaps the easiest or the most obvious one is, to use the equipment that you have at your computer or at your computer desk. So your computer probably comes with a webcam, or there's a webcam associated with it, some sort of microphone for recording sound, and then software in the computer to record the video and to process the video. So if we're going to do that, if we're going to say, well, the place where I sit with my computer, we can kind of use that as the basis for making a studio, at least for like recording what you're saying and recording what's in the computer and what you're putting on the computer screen. What do we need to do that? Well, essentially we need a webcam. Now that, we can up that in terms of, right the way up to studio cameras, but some fixed camera that we can put there, a microphone for listening, lights. I think is possibly the most important thing to think about and to have. I mean, I'll put a picture up here of some New Ear lights. What you want is LED lights that are continuously on, video lights, and so that they can light me. I've got a light there. I should have switched it on. I haven't switched it on. I'm not going to now because I think I have to fiddle around plugging it in. But it makes a big difference in terms of lighting myself. I see that I'm a bit dull. Those lights can cost quite a lot of money. £100. I mean, well, you can pay infinite amounts of money, but also for lights you can use daylight bulbs and stick those into a into a lamp that you've got already, and so you can really have about a five or £10, you know, cost can make a big difference to the lighting for your video. And the other thing is, which is what I've done, is like thinking about the positioning of your of yourself if you're one that is being recorded with respect to natural light, so that for example, I'm now facing a window. So what you don't want, you want to be well lit from the front, and what you don't want is lots of light in the back, because that's going to make you come across really dark. So you don't want to be turned, you don't want the window behind you. You definitely want the window to be in front of you. So those are things to bear in mind if you're going to use your computer station as a place to generate. Now, obviously, to create videos, obviously that's not so fantastic if you're wanting to have shots from outside and the like, and include those in the video, in your video. So there, if you're kind of mobile and outside, you want to really use your mobile phone. Okay, unless you've got a mirrorless camera or a SLR camera, which can be easily used for video before moving up to bespoke. But let's assume that we've got a mobile phone, it's got a decent camera on it, so let's use that to do the recording. Let's pair it with a microphone, but be cautious about that. I'll return to that in a second, and maybe some lights. But what you definitely want is a tripod. It doesn't have to be a big tripod, it can just be like a small desktop one. But if you connect your phone to that, then you can hold it on that, or somebody mentioned before using a selfie stick or something like that. But that's going to give you a lot more stabilization and a lot more control. Now, of course, you can buy a stabilization rig and to put it inside of that, and I would recommend that. I think that's a good thing to do. It's going to make a big increase, but if you improvement in your shooting. But if you've got a tripod, £5 for a connector, connect the tripod to the mobile phone, you've got a lot more stability and you've got a lot more control on what you're doing with the camera, with the mobile setup. Now, I said microphone, and it is good to have a microphone, a lavalier mic or something that's connected to your mobile phone, or maybe you've got a hand recorder that you can use. But I would say this, it's like, if you don't have to, really do not record the sound outside. Okay, if you don't have to, then don't do that. You're much better doing your sound recording, doing your interviews, you know, in a space where you control the sound. So, you know, if you're doing an interview with somebody, why do it outside? Because you're going to have the wind and the noise, and you're going to have all of this stuff taking place. Do the interview inside, and do the video shots outside, and put the two things together. I mean, you can actually put the whole interview, you know, underneath. If you're going to be talking to somebody outside, and you're doing an interview with them, it's a really good idea to take shots, lots of shots where you don't see the person speaking, right? Because if you can't see their lips moving, then there's no issue with lip sync. So you can actually record the voice inside and do the shots outside, and then you're away. So it's only, I mean, sometimes it's great only to have this lip sync thing with the sound going on, but that might cause you difficulties earlier on. So obviously, like your professionals, your news at 10 and all of that sort of stuff, there's lots to be said for doing recording sound outside. And if you're wanting to see the sound of the sea, or all of this sort of stuff. But if you want a basic, good, clean video, then record the sound at your desk where you've got everything under control. record interviews in that sort of context, and then take your mobile phone outside and shoot the video and cut the two things together. That's quite a good route to getting a clean video or clean set of video resources that you can put together out of the door as quickly as possible. So there you go, some tips. Shoot anywhere, record audio inside. Do consider lighting, natural and artificial, but also we can collect to reuse existing video, turn images into a video, add sound, soundscape, music, narratives, and so on. Okay, so
Alan, briefly, there's a question about equipment.
yeah, sure.
Kate said, we recently got a gimbal for videos, but struggling with this. Any advice?
It's difficult to say because I don't know what the struggle is. I think a gimbal is a good thing for stabilization, so that, you know, if you're kind of like walking around an event, or if you're wanting to move the camera and shoot while you're moving the camera, then the gimbal is a good way to go.
Can I ask what a gimbal is, because I actually do not know?
Well, it's exactly that. It's something that you connect. So you hold the gimbal, okay, and you connect the video to you connect the camera to the gimbal, and you can get them for mobile phones or for bigger or for bigger cameras. You connect the two things together, and I don't know, it's like suspension or something like that. It means you can move your gimbal around and the camera is going to move smoothly. It's not going to be jerky.
Okay, thank you.
You're not going to get jerky movement, so it's going to smooth all of that. It's going to stabilize it. It's going to move all of that. It's going to move all of that jerkiness out of the system. But you know, I think you can get, depending upon the quality of the gimbal as to how effective it will be, and also you can, depending upon the systems that you're using, you can use what do you call it? Stabilization in software can smooth out those sorts of things. So I haven't bought a gimbal. It's certainly something that would be on my list of things that I want to buy for my mobile phone or for the cameras that we use. So it can add a nice sort of professional aspect to it. I don't know if that helps, Kate. I mean, I would say don't necessarily use the gimbal just for the sake of it, but where you're wanting to move around with the camera, then try to use it. And
can I ask a question? Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, I can hear you.
About it, yeah. So the gimbal, I think what we're sort of struggling with, and we think maybe that's the way it's designed, is that it seems like it would be something that would be good for kind of log style videos, the gimbal. But not for maybe like vlogs when it's following you around, you know, but maybe not so much when we're looking for kind of more static videos. When we're doing interview or something, we're having real trouble at.
What I would say to you is, look, if you're not moving the camera, right, if you don't need to move the camera, then you don't necessarily need a gimbal. You could just attach the camera to a tripod to you know, if you're wanting to hold it in position in relation to yourself or whatever, then that would be a way to go. So if you're sat talking to camera, then you probably don't need a gimbal. It's probably more hassle than it's worth. But if you are moving around an exhibition space or walking around a monument, going from room to room, that sort of thing, that's where a gimbal can really come into its own. So it's going to make your video a lot more stable than it would have been if you had just been walking. But again, if you know, rather than holding it in your hand, if you attach it to a tripod and walk around, you're going to get quite a lot of stabilization from that. But yeah, does that make sense? Is that helpful? Kate? Okay. Anyway.
So there's can I ask one more question?
Yeah, sure.
Before we move on. So Tanya said, if you're using an iPhone and you have to film outside, do you improve the sound if you use the plug-in lapel mic? So is that the lavalier mic?
Yeah, so I think that the thing is this, is that whenever you're recording, so you've got your camera and you've got your sound recording, okay? Now, the problem with doing is that you want your sound capture device to be near to the source of the sound, right? But you may want to have a long distance shot, okay? So what a lavalier mic can give you is, you know, you can be with your camera like 3 meters away, and the lavalier mic can be on somebody's lapel, really close to their voice. So that's what so separating, in general, separating the camera from the sound can be a good thing to do if the distance between where you're taking your shot from and the source of the sound is significant. I mean, that's also why people use directional mics when they're doing shooting outside. So these kind of like long, thin directional mics, rather than mics that pick up sound from all around, so that you can be a distance away, but really point it at the sound source and capture that sound in a directional way. It's a really good question. I'm glad you asked it. It's something that I meant to mention when I was talking about, but capturing the sound, this separation of picture and sound. So lavalier mics help you do that. Directional mics help you do that. Having a separate sound recording thing helps you do that. But I mean, if you're using your iPhone, if the shot and the recording is close up, then you can definitely get away with it. But when you're doing all of this stuff, I mean, I mentioned it in the audio section, when you're doing this shooting, and when you're kind of like recording sound in what might be a semi-hostile environment, you know, try to make sure that you're monitoring the sound, okay? So that you want to set up where you can hear what is being recorded. So you've got headphones that you can plug into your microphone, or in some way route from your Mac, from your phone, so that you get the sound and you manage to pick up, so you know what is capturing. And look, if that setup is a bit impractical, then what you can do is like record a bit and then listen to it back, and then record a bit and then listen to it back. But what you definitely shouldn't do is like spend a whole day recording and then go home and then listen to what the sound sounds like. And remember also, you can process the sound separately. So the stuff that I talked about in terms of audio, in terms of doing noise removal and amplifying, maybe putting a little bit of echo on, you can do those sorts of things to process the sound to make it to make it as good quality as you can. But as in everything, you're making your life a lot easier if, when you're recording the sound, you're recording it at a good quality.
Thank you.
Okay, so is that it? We're up on so
we're caught up on questions.
Sorry?
I said we're all caught up on questions.
We're caught up on questions. Fantastic. What I was going to say that then next is let's record. Let's make a video, right? And so, what's the easiest way of making a video? Well, the easiest way of making a video is to use PowerPoint. Okay. So if you this is make a video from PowerPoint. So shoot or make or collect some media, put it into a PowerPoint slide, and then record yourself talking to the slides. Remember, the slides may include video themselves. So if you have video clips, you can put them onto a slide. So it's really straightforward. So I've shown here what all I've done here is opened up PowerPoint, and let's just see where we are. Okay, so we've got PowerPoint here. So if I go to slideshow, so I click on slideshow, and then you see here record slideshow is grayed out. That's because I'm already doing a slideshow. But if I click on record slideshow there, it takes me to this screen. Okay, so if I've got in my system a camera, then the camera will that's working, and the camera will be there. And you see that this is an image. I put some text over the top of it. It's a nice image, and you see myself putting a face as I'm trying to talk. And so you've got record, so you can click on record, and then it will start recording you, and it will just kind of go all of the way through doing that. And while that is happening, there are some tools here so you can like draw on things and make points for it. Oh, excuse me. Okay, so that's really straightforward. You just go to the you go to the menu item, slideshow, and you choose record slideshow from that. That takes you to this screen, and you just press record, and you start talking, and you just go through the slides as you like. Excuse me. So this is a second slide with me talking on, and when you're happy with where you are, you press stop recording, and then you go to the file menu. Here, go to the file menu here. Okay, and then from that file menu, you select export. From export, you select create video. And then you go over here, and you see there's different quality settings that you can select, and then you click on create video, and then you can select it as an MP4 and you save it, and that's it. You have made a video. And hi, and welcome to this short video which is discussing digital heritage. So this is an introduction. Hello, and welcome to the introduction to about digital heritage and preservation. Digital heritage and preservation course that I run for master students at both St Andrews and promote heritage. It's clearly it's not a great video, you know. They're not going to be getting any global awards or anything like that. But it gets the job done. And now you've got a video, I can upload that to YouTube. I can circulate it as a video. I can upload it to Vimeo. I can do all of those sorts of things for it. And PowerPoint is probably a tool that everybody is kind of familiar with. And so, and each of the slides can be an image. So it gives you a way of turning your images into a video, but also you can upload videos into it. So that's a way of making a video from resources that have already been created. And I think, Ian, the next slide is about something called, we haven't talked much about software so far. So I know people have mentioned some different platforms, but we're going to get to this in a while, not that much of a while. But in terms of Premiere, it's probably the Adobe Premiere is probably the platform that most people use for making videos, but it's quite expensive. And I can recommend something called Kdenlive. We'll get to it later on. Kdenlive. It's a fully featured video editing suite, which is free, open source, and cross-platform. So that's helpful. I know Microsoft have got some simple stuff that's great, and so have Macs. And if that's what you're wanting to do, then that's fine. That's great. But the advantage of using something like Kdenlive is that, you know, if there's a group of you that are working on stuff, then if some of you got Macs and some of you got PCs, you can all use it. And also it means I can demonstrate, some of you have got Macs and some of you have got PCs, so you could all use this. So you just go to Kdenlive and click on it and download it, and that's great for pulling things together, for making a fully featured thing. In terms of software, which I mention later on, Blender is good. That's again is a fully featured, very powerful, open source, cross-platform video editing thing. Bit of a steep learning curve though. I mean, I don't want to put you off it, but just be warned. So I'd go for Kdenlive first, and then there's something called Avid Mux, and Avid Mux is good for changing the format of videos, and it's good for cutting and for simple operations. So if you've recorded a Facebook video and you've got a hold of it and you want to cut off the beginning, you want to cut off the end, Avid Mux, well, you could do that inside of Facebook. Avid Mux would be a way of doing that. So they would be my personal recommendations for software to use for video editing. And I think with that set, you can do pretty much anything. The only other one that I would mention is Videolan, VLC. And this isn't for making videos, it's for watching videos. But essentially, if you're playing around with videos and you've got problems with formats and codecs and stuff like that, if VLC can't play it, pretty much nothing will be able to. So it's something that is quite powerful and is good at loading videos into. So that's something that I would have on my system, looking at things. And I'm not degrading the other stuff that people have mentioned. I'm sure that they're great. Some of them I've used, some of them that I haven't used, but I do have confidence in recommending Kdenlive and Avid and Avid Mux. Okay, so I think that Ian, did you have something to say about OBS? Oh, that was it. Open Broadcaster software. We will return to this when we are talking about putting on a live show, because this is great for that. But OBS is also great for capturing what's going on your computer. So if you set things up on your computer. Anyway, Ian.
Yes, so OBS Studio can be used for capturing. Well, it can be used for capturing your desktop. It can also be used for capturing from video sources. So, for instance, you can capture from your webcam. It can capture for a number of different audio sources. One interesting thing you can do with it is you can also put images on screen and text and color blocks. So you could capture a window and yourself, and then put some graphic overlay on, and then talk to the graphic. Or you can capture from other programs, so from Zoom, and so you can put together a whole source stuff from various different sources and capture it. And like Alan said, it can also be used for streaming, but yes, it has the capability of capturing video in a number of formats, and from essentially anything you can see on your desktop, plus any video source that you have. And it's quite simple and intuitive to use. I guess this is the main interface with nothing added, and then you can, the second one, you've got some stuff added, and you can press on the. You've got multiple scenes. You can fade between them if you want to do something more complicated. Where you are talking to one thing and then start talking to another thing during the video. Though if you're recording, you might want to do those separately and then edit them together rather than doing them all together.
Okay. So that's that's us on steps to making our first video, and so then if we want to go a bit beyond the PowerPoint thing, then we can use a video editing platform. And like I say, there are quite a number of these. Premiere, somebody mentioned Photoshop having video editing facilities in it as well, but both of those you have to pay for. Kden Live is free. It goes for GNU, goes for Linux and Windows and Mac OS. So it's a multi-track. So it's got a timeline where you can you can upload all your resources into the system, into a project, and then on the timeline, and then place them on the timeline and move them around and edit them in the same way as we were looking at with the audio, but with different tracks. So it's got facility for splitting audio and video into multiple different tracks. And you can put in effects and transitions. Okay, and there's a facility for doing what we just done with PowerPoint, which is like point it at a folder with lots of images in it, and it can then turn those images into a slideshow, which you can then and put automatic fades in, which you can then add audio to as you like. Okay, so that has kind of like most of the features that we would want for most of the time for making a digital doors open video. So quick start. So these are the things to just kind of look at. How to create a project, how to add clips, how to edit the timeline, how to add effects, how to add a soundtrack, and how to render video. That's the kind of 6 things that we want to be able to do. So first of all, to create a project, you need to choose a folder, okay? And then choose some settings. Okay, so settings might be the number of frames that you want per second. So most of the time we're going to be looking at 25 frames per second. That's a sort of UK European number. The resolution, well, oftentimes I see little point in going above 1920 to 1080 in terms of resolution. I mean, you obviously, it depends a bit upon the resolution of the clips that you have. So there's no point in going to a higher resolution than the clips that you have. I mean, if you've got one clip that's 1920 by 1080 and 5 that are 1280 by 720, which is 720p, I was giving you the wrong number for it earlier on, then, you know, maybe you want to do it at 1920 by 1080, but maybe you want to do it at the 1280 by 720. Essentially, if you set it at a higher resolution than the resources that you're putting into it, then it's not going to magically give you a higher fidelity. It's not going to make it look any better. It's just going to look the same as if it was a lower resolution, but take up more space and take up more resources. So know what resources you've got, what you're going to be putting into it. And 1920 by 1080 is plenty big enough. I mean, if you're going to stream, then you maybe want to change it lower. Pixel aspect ratio is almost always going to be 1. And then the video tracks. So how many video tracks do you want? You probably want at least 2 video tracks so that you can put, you know, so you can alternate the track that they're on, that each clip is on, so that you can makes it easier to do the fading and all of that sort of stuff. And audio tracks, probably you want 2, and channels for the same reason, and then channels. I've got 2 here for stereo, so I don't know if you're doing surround sound and all of that sort of stuff, but I mean, often 1 channel's enough, but 2 stereo is good. So that's, you know, so you set it up like that, to make these selections, and then you're kind of away. So the next thing you need to do is just to use your basic file handling skills. You know, open a dialog box and load in a clip. Open a dialog box and load in a clip. So it's a good idea to have a folder for the project and put everything relevant to that project into the folder rather than going around finding clips in lots of different places. Because then if you decide to move the project, things can break. Whereas if everything is all in the same folder, it's going to be a bit more robust. So some file handling, dialog boxes, select the image, select the resources that you want to put into the system that you want to be available to yourself. And again, these can be photographs, they can be video, they can be audio clips. That's about what they can be, actually. So you want to do all of those. Maybe the audio, you've done your editing in Audacity previously and got it all cleaned up, and you just move it in to here. So you add the different clips in, and once you've done the different clips, then we can edit them. But this is just a set of instructions here that you can look at for doing slideshow clips. So these are clips created from a series of still images, which, you know, it's easy to take a set of still images, or maybe you've already got a set of still images. They all put them in the, I think in the order, alphabetical order or something like that. But so the thing to do is to have a look at the folder with the images in, and then number them. So 01, 02, 03, 04, 05, 06, on down. And that numbering then determines the order that they are. So they will go into the system at. So you can sequence them in that way. You can select an appropriate frame duration. So you make them 2 seconds, 5 seconds, whatever it happens to be. Hit OK. And then a video file will be made up of the images in the folder from which you selected. You can then drag this video to the timeline. And once it's on the timeline, you can do what you want with it. You can cut it up. You can take off a bit at the beginning. You can take off a bit at the end. You can add an audio track to it. It's all very simple and straightforward. Or maybe you're just really happy with the way it is as anyway, and you just want to put a bit of title on. You want to put a bit on the background. So that's slideshow clips. You've got a bunch of photographs. You've got an audio file. You just put the two things together into Kdenlive, and hey presto, you've got a video. So the timeline here, I don't know, Ian, do we have any demo videos of this?
No, unfortunately.
Okay, so the timeline. So this is the top shows two videos. Okay, so one on the left, one above, and one on the track above, and one on the track below. And so that's what you want to do. You want to just drag and drop from here. So you click on one and you drag it down. Billy balls, you drag it down onto the timeline. Pretty straightforward. And once you've done that, you can then select the edge of one of the clips, and you can cut. So you can move the edge to get rid of bits that you don't want. And then the next thing you want to do is you can then add transitions between clips. And that's really straightforward. You just drag a transition onto a clip. And, you know, we don't want to go mad and do lots and lots of balmy transitions. But not putting in transitions means that you'll get this jerky from one to the next clip. So if you've got a clip on one timeline and then a clip on another timeline, you just kind of shunt them together like that, so there's a bit of overlap, and then drop a transition onto that. So maybe a fade transition, so it just fades from one to the other. Try and keep it subtle. Don't make it don't make the transitions garish or flash. It's kind of the point about the transitions is not, hey, here's the best transition in the world. No, the point about the transitions is that you don't notice them. You don't know that they're there. You just smoothly go from one view into the other view. So the best transitions, 90% of the times, are the ones that are the subtlest, and you don't see. So that means you probably need a little bit of time for it not to be jerky for the transition, and that's it. So we put that together. We can then, there are effects, and we can then add in different effects to it. We can look at the effects menu and add those in. But again, I would say you probably, most of the time, you don't want to be going there too much. You want to kind of keep it au naturel. Remember, we're not making 1001: A Space Odyssey. We're trying to probably most of the time giving people a pretty neutral view of the heritage that we're looking at. So maybe you want to soften things a bit, maybe you want to sharpen things up a bit, but generally I would recommend being conservative in adding effects. And then we've got our audio channel, and we can just drag and upload the audio channel as previously, and then just drop it onto or drop it onto Audio One. We can edit it. The things that we looked at in terms of Audacity, we can do in Kden Live, but maybe you want to do it in Audacity before moving them in. I mean, often I would put the audio channel in at the beginning, you know, and then arrange the clips around the audio channel. But you want to think about the synchronicity between the audio that you've got and the clips that you've got. And this is where you can use all those wonderful shots of from behind of somebody looking out to sea, speaking about the sea, where you didn't shoot their lips, so you don't have to worry about the audio channel exactly lining up with the with their clips, because it is quite, it doesn't take much movement away from the audio channel and the video channel being synchronized for it to become off-putting with, you know, with the lip sync issues. So the best way of avoiding the lip sync issues is not to see the lips moving. And so that's it. Then we go through those. That's the mechanics of going through and of making a video, pretty straightforward. And once we've done that, once we're happy with it, then we can render it out. Okay, so we set where we want it to go, we choose the location, we choose the format, and we render the file out. And it may well be that what you want to do is to render out a file at high quality, maybe with as little compression or high quality compression as you can, as is reasonable given the storage that you've got and the length of the file. I mean, bear in mind, these files can become gigabytes in minutes, you know, if you're working with 4K media, for example, and you're not compressing them. But nonetheless, it's a good idea to render out at high quality, and then it's how are you using it? You know, if you're sending it by email, you're going to need to probably compress it down. If you're going to trying to stream it or putting it onto, yeah, if you're going to be using it in a stream or like as we are here, then again, you probably don't want to go above 720p, 1280. If you're putting it on Vimeo or YouTube, then you can put up something that's quite high quality because they will create a number of different versions of it. Although depending upon what your plan is with Vimeo, they will, I think, limit the quality that you can upload. So if you're paying for a Vimeo account, then you can maybe not worry so much, and you can just, okay, I'll do a high resolution, high quality, upload it, and then see where we then see where we are from there. But remember that in terms of showing people videos, don't get hung up on having the highest quality video that that you can manage, because our brains filter a lot of what is going on in terms of what we're seeing. The most important thing is that the quality is consistent. Okay, so if it's low resolution or if it's black and white or whatever, you know, if it's a film, you know, 5 minutes in, your brain's going to stop recognizing that. You forget that you're not watching something in color. You know, you're just enjoying the narrative and the stories, or you forget about the resolution. You're kind of enjoying it. What you don't want is for it to stop, you know, or for it to be jerky, or for it to like sometimes manage it and sometimes not manage it. And so you get the worst situation when you have something of too high a quality that requires too much bandwidth for the systems that you're working with to be able to manage. So keep as high a quality as you can for archiving purposes or for working with in the future, but for distributing and for letting people see it, you know, if you cut the quality a bit, more people are going to have a better experience if they're using it on systems that can't manage the quality, or there's issues with the streaming and or the internet and all those sorts of things. So I think that that's worthwhile thinking about. So I've kind of like piled through there on recording and editing. So I think it would be a good idea to pause a bit and see if I'm sure that you will have tips that you would maybe want to share with other people, or add to what I've said, or maybe even you know, challenge what I've said. All of which would be hugely welcome.
Yeah, shall we do another small group breakout session so that people can maybe get, like you said, share some ideas? There's some good tips that have been coming through in the chat about different software to use, for example, and maybe even thinking about sharing and your experiences of whatever projects you've been working on. Again, maybe we can build upon what Alan said in this second half of the workshop. So again, I'll just break us up, maybe just 10 minutes, have a break where you get some smaller discussion, and then bring it back and we can pick up on some larger themes.
Yeah.
So I will just create some breakout rooms. We'll do some new ones, so you'll get shaken up a bit. Okay.